Alright everybody, today we are going to go on and do a new contest on Pixlr with some photo editing. So I'm going to open Pixlr Editor, and the contest that we're going to do is going to be creating a new animal. So I already have some pictures uploaded in OneDrive. So if we want to go and look at OneDrive here really quick. OneDrive, I sent out links to all of you that has this folder so you can access these pictures. For me, I've got to go through a couple of steps here really quick. Get to the animal pictures. So I have a bunch of different pictures in here and different animals. There's usually a picture of the animal facing forward and then a side image of the animal. And what you're going to want to do is create an animal using some new parts from other animals in your new species. So if we started out with something, and ideally we'd be able to see these, right? So I don't know if I can turn my view on. So there's an alligator, aardvark, things like that. So here's a preview of some of them. Some of them, like this picture back here, is just an eye that maybe you want to incorporate into your animal. But I would start with one of the big side pictures of an animal, and then you can add some new parts onto that animal as you work. And so, like I said, I usually have a side view and a front view of a lot of the animals, depending on what you want to try and create. And sometimes it's fun to use animals with big horns and things like that. Some of the pictures were a little bit blurry, but they will, once they resize, they usually come into focus. And so it's up to you to choose, but basically the starting point will be to choose an animal for like the base animal. And so let's say you're going to choose maybe this turtle. So if you know you want your turtle, then you're going to select 5 different aspects from different animals to incorporate into here. Whether it's horns, or eyes, or a head, or feet, or tails, or whatever the case might be, 5 different aspects. Now, when I say aspects, that means that 2 horns does not count as 2 things. Horns is one thing. That's one aspect. So, you could incorporate tails, different legs, different heads, different eyes, horns, mouths, whatever the case might be. So let's say I decided I want to use this turtle for sure. And so you're going to have to download it. So I would click download, and that will put the turtle into my downloads file down here, and I really don't need to do anything with it from there. Then when I go to Pixlr, open image from computer, go to downloads, I'm going to have to open up my turtle picture. And right now my picture is at 1200 by 900. At 50%, and I might want to crop this a little bit just to get some of the background out of there, or maybe I need that background room for adding in my other components from my other animals. So then we knew that we wanted the turtle, but maybe we want the turtle to have a tiger's head. So I will download my tiger and go back to Pixlr and File and Open Image, and I'll have to get my tiger's head then. And just like we did before, we'll use a lasso tool just to draw kind of a bubble around the tiger's head. And then once we've got that bubble in, we'll copy it and go to our turtle picture and paste it in. And if we need to resize it or free transform it, we can do that. Before I go there, I'm going to use my magic wand tool to try to take out some of this extra stuff that we don't necessarily need from the tiger picture. And I can use my eraser and change my brush sizes and all that good stuff to take out a little bit more of the extra. Oh, I still have some dancing ants there, so I better deselect all, so then that way my eraser tool will work. There we go. Now I can erase everything out and take all this extra stuff out of here. And then once I get rid of all the extra to my liking here, and I pretty much have the tiger head the way I want it, I could always move it over and potentially resize it, because that tiger head's kind of big on that turtle body. So we'll make him a little smaller. Now you might want to leave it a little bit oversized, because then maybe you can add some different aspects later on. So like maybe horns or different eyes or a different mouth or something like that. The goal here for our project is to try to make this as realistic as possible though. So even though we're adding in this tiger head to a turtle body, we still want to try to make it look kind of real. So we can go up to our adjustments like we've talked about in the past. Our brightness and contrast, maybe we want to bring our brightness down a little bit. Or actually maybe our contrast, maybe make it a little more faded out so it matches the background. Maybe darken it up a little, mess around with the contrast. Try to get it to something you think makes it look like it blends into the picture a little bit more. And then after that, you're ready to move on to the next element. So, you know, I went with a tiger. Maybe I decide that I want him to have some bighorn sheep antlers on him. That sounds like fun. So we'll go ahead and download the ram picture. And go to my pixeler again. Open up the ram. And now technically we're just using them just for his horns. So we can copy or draw our bubble a little bit, but I'm really not going to worry about a ton of stuff because I really just want the horns. So we can go up to edit and copy that. I don't even need to keep this open. And paste it in. And I want to move it over so you can see we got all that extra. We can get rid of that extra, and then kind of the neat thing with Pixlr is once we get this all out to our liking, we could potentially go in and duplicate that layer. So, ooh, I got some dancing ants. We could duplicate that layer so that way we have two horns that are exactly the same. Because that would be the ideal scenario for us, right? So get rid of all the extra stuff there, maybe erase off a little extra to make his horn look a little pointier. And then move this over onto our tiger, and maybe I want to free transform, and you know, the nice thing about free transform is we can rotate things one direction or another, make them bigger or smaller, just depending on what we want to do. Maybe I'll put it right here. And then over here, that was my layer 2. And so I can duplicate that layer. And now I've got two horns. And with my free transform, I could flip it the other direction. And that way I'll have two horns that are basically the exact same. So that way they look nice and proportional. And maybe I need to move that one over a little bit more. And then don't forget, we talked about this before, but the more you zoom in, usually the more detailed you can get with things. So if I zoom in and say to myself, oh, it doesn't really look that natural coming out here, maybe I need to use my eraser tool. And maybe this time I want to use a faded brush on purpose, so then that way I can make it look like it's blending more, fading in from that fur. So I click that horn. I got to click on my other layer too to do this horn to get it to blend a little bit more. And then hopefully that looks a little bit more realistic. Or maybe we slide it one way or the other a little bit more depending on how you feel it needs to go in there. So now at this point I would have two aspects on my new animal. My original animal was my turtle. One of my new aspects was my tiger's head. Another aspect is the ram's horns. And so I'd still have to come up with three more aspects of things on here to change, whether that be adding wings or different feet or adding a different mouth onto the tiger or maybe different eyes on the tiger, whatever the case might be. The more aspects I can add in there, I think you'll get more people to vote for you. The more realistic I can make it when I'm done, that's what we're going to be judging on as well. And so you just want to try to make your new species as neat and incorporate as many things to it as possible. All right, I hope you have a good time with this. When we get done, we'll save it, and then I'll have you guys email them to me, so then that way I can find a way to present all of them, maybe on YouTube or something like that. All right, get going.